All right. Welcome to the podcast, the first Real2Real Sports Network podcast, filmed, taped, Super Bowl Sunday 2024. I am the prophet.
Live from Las Vegas.
Live, real-time live from Las Vegas. Pasty white degenerate gambler, living the dream in Sin City. My co-host, the professor,
Bill Farley. Montana.
The great white north, big sky country. That's what I understand.
Oh, wrestling with grizzly bears. Just
Glaciers.
looking for the hibernation period to end. Waiting for those huckleberries to bloom and just start getting at it with the grizzly bears. Fighting for every berry.
Going after the salmon. The salmon run is going to be huge. Or is that in the fall?
That's Alaska. Yeah,
that might
be
the fattening. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little hard, little far inland for the salmon here.
Oh,
gotta go.
Well, that would be a hell of a swim.
Oh yeah. Get over the Cascades.
Oh God, those would be some pretty thin, ugly salmon by the time they reached.
Oh, they'd be beat up. They'd be beat up.
Oh God, all flaky and nasty. Anyway, all right, we're gonna first go into the classroom with the professor to talk a little bit about Florida State stadium financing.
Everybody's looking at private equity as the savior. They're looking at the wrong place.
Take us to school.
So I've got news for you. The money's coming. The money's coming for the buyout in the next week or two, and it's coming from a completely different direction. Coming out of left field.
Let's hear it.
Well, it's going to be found in the place you might normally find stadium financing. And that's all I can say right now. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I get it. I mean, this is breaking news. This is a research project that is underway. It's in the infancy. I know that in future episodes there would be more to come, but this is just a teaser.
But I can guarantee you that Florida State is going to have the bag they need to get out of the ACC.
Boom.
Without a doubt. Money is not going to be a problem for the Seminoles. They are out of the ACC.
Okay, so we are breaking news here then. So they won't have a problem getting out. Will this be, Professor, the first domino to fall in the ACC demise? If they get out, will other schools follow?
I don't know if anybody else can raise the money that Florida State can. That is a lot of money, but Florida State has all the ingredients to pay the bill. They've got the assets, they've got the income, they've got the partners, they've got the combination that can pay the piper to get out of the ACC. Now, if they can negotiate a lower fee, that might bring other schools into play. But right now, Florida State has the capability of paying over $500 million to get out of the ACC.
Yikes.
I don't think Clemson or North Carolina can crack that nut.
So they would have a similar buyout fee the other schools would?
Yes.
Florida State? Okay.
There's a conference exit fee of $125 million. There's an exit out of the grant of rights. It's another $400 million. Now that in the settlement, in the lawsuit, that might come down significantly. So I'd say it'd have to come down to somewhere in the range of $200 million for others to follow. Because Clemson, North Carolina State, they just don't have the money, the resources, the assets that the state of Florida has. You got to remember, state of Florida is one of the largest states in the country. And they've got the balance sheet of the entire state of Florida at their disposal. Whereas these other states are a fifth, a quarter the size. So the big boy, Florida State, they can pay the piper. They can get out. Guaranteed.
Now, as part of the problem, the original deal that they signed, what was it, for 20, 30 years?
Yeah, the subject of the lawsuit is that the grant of rights was for an extended period of time that they either didn't sign or had the proper signature on their documents, or that it's a hollow document and that there's no revenue guaranteed after, I think, 2027. So there are a couple issues that they're raising about the validity of their agreements, uh, the representation they received from the conference that they're challenging, to say that these are either invalid agreements or they've been their business has been damaged by incompetence of the conference. So that's where they're going with the lawsuit, to bring the number down. But if the number doesn't come down, they're going to be able to get there.
Well, this is going to be an interesting road for them to travel.
Yeah, they got to knock it down for themselves, because obviously more money the better. But they got to knock it down pretty far to get the others to follow.
Well, let's just take this to the next step. So let's just assume that Florida State exits. Where do they go? Who's going to take them?
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Big Ten. Big Ten is going to be the surviving conference. When it's all said and done, 5 years from now, there's only going to be one conference standing.
Because, as it turns out, the Big Ten will take anyone from anywhere.
Yeah, they create a national conference. They've got the best markets. They beat the SEC on the media deal, and
so is that just part of SEC just unwillingness to expand? Because they have been so locked in on that geographical, territory.
Well, they've got a cap just because they're in poor states, poor income. They don't have the balance sheets. Their states don't have the balance sheets that they do in the north.
Yikes!
Yeah,
That's
yeah. When you look at where what's Alabama, what's Mississippi, what's Louisiana, where are they going to get the money and the resources to build their programs? Because this is going the way of professionalization. States, local governments are going to have to get involved. They're going to have to start sharing their tourism tax with the college football programs. Everything you see in the NFL is coming to college when it comes to stadium financing, public improvements. And the poor states are not going to be able to keep up. And the SEC is just littered with poor states.
You're telling me right now that Baton Rouge doesn't have enough base to pull out that financing deal? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that it's just not there. Georgia might join the Big Ten in a few years, because Georgia does have the resources to compete. Maybe Florida follows, but maybe a school from Texas. But I don't see the rest of that SEC having Tennessee. Not going to get it. Not going to get it, Tennessee. Not going to get it. So
you're right now, I can write this down.
Write it down.
Your call for 2030, the Big Ten is the mega surviving conference.
Right. It'll be the home of the Super League. So it will take in some of the best programs from the SEC, and the SEC's, the bottom half of the SEC, the poor states, will drop back. They'll be relegated. Relegation is coming to the SEC. Now, I'm looking around the corner. Most of your financial analysts and your folks, your talking heads, they're looking what's right in front of them. I'm looking around the corner, and that's what I see.
You're going over the horizon.
Over the horizon.
It's not what's now, it's what's next. That's what I'm hearing.
Mile. Going a quarter mile. I'm not going 50 feet. I'm going a quarter mile.
That's right.
Okay? I'll leapfrog this thing.
Well, that's how we do it here at Real2Real Sports.
Yeah, we leapfrog.
We are not just looking for now. We're not looking for tomorrow. We're looking, down the road.
Yeah. People need to make plans. And you may want to cut your losses when you're writing that check to LSU or Vanderbilt or
Rutgers,
Kentucky. No, Rutgers. No, I think Rutgers might make it. They're in the Big Ten. They got the big market. Rutgers has got a local economy. New Jersey, they could pitch the money. They could bring the state and local government resources to bear.
Okay,
but if your city can't even build a water system that's got clean water, you're likely not going to be able to build a stadium. And that's not saying anything negative about the South.
Well, now, I mean, hold on. I mean, Flint has their own problems with water systems.
Oh yeah, there are parts there, but you get into the major. If you can find an NFL stadium within a rock's throw of a college football program, you got a shot. But if you don't, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of pro stadiums in the South.
Well, I mean, you have New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah, they're close to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
But
do they have enough money to do both? Can they do an NFL stadium and a less popular college program? You have to look at the multiple sport communities and see how they line up. And I think that'd be a great feature for us to just kind of do that map overlay in the future, and so people understand it, can see it themselves.
Well, and I think it would be really clear when you look at the Florida franchises, because clearly you've got pro teams in Miami,
right?
College teams in Miami, right? Tallahassee.
There's money in Florida.
There is money in Florida.
Arkansas, not so much.
Ooh.
Again, no offense to the Arkansas of the world.
No, and they draw real well in Fayetteville.
Oh yeah, you can have a great crowd. A lot of G5 programs fill their stadiums, but that's not the recipe for success. Ticket sales not going to do it.
Nope.
You got to have big corporate, local government, state financing behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, Walmart and Tyson Chicken only go so far.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is going to be interesting to follow. I'm sure they'll be working diligently on this. Next podcast, we'll expect an update.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Look, now this has been really heavy.
Oh yeah.
I want to take it back a notch.
Sure.
Let's lighten it up. I got a few things I want to get off my chest here. Going to need your input.
Yeah.
First off, let's go to Bronny James. I think the hype is over for Bronny James, except when it comes to Bill Walton and ESPN execs that still contend he is ready to go pro. I don't understand it. I've watched him play. I don't get the hype. He's decent, but he's not pro ready.
Yeah,
I put the question out to Twitter, and they said, Prophet, nobody's talking about Bronny anymore. You're the only one. Well, what are you doing?
Is his dad getting an appearance fee to show up at the games to drive up viewership? Is he?
He might because he does show up at. He shows up at all the games.
He's like the Taylor Swift of college basketball.
He is.
Yeah,
he is.
No, he's doing what he can to boost the brand of his son, but.
Yeah, I've watched the guy. He's on defense. He's normally out of position. He's really never part of any offensive scheme. He makes a lot of silly mistakes that I don't know. The director of the ESPN's director of recruiting came on one day and said, you know what? He just needs 1 year in the G League and then an NBA franchise will swoop him up. I'm like, no. So I think that hype is over.
What else you got? What else is bothering you? What's on your mind?
Well, you know what? And speaking of Bill Walton, he brought up something the other night that has been on my mind for quite a while. 2 points. First, and look, it's been a while since you and I have laced him up, but we've been there. Mm-hmm. We've been on the court. We've played.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so we know.
Yeah.
We know ball.
Oh yeah.
Now here's a question. Why don't more players follow their shots anymore?
Analytics.
As opposed to poor coaching.
Correct. I believe, because I heard this discussion on one of the talk shows, that what they were talking about, how everybody at the pro level, nobody's following the shots, and nobody's crashing the boards. So the only thing I can think of, it's analytics that say basically you're better off, you have a better chance of terms of point differential getting back on defense than you do trying to get an offensive rebound to score. So by getting back and set, you have a better chance to prevent points scored. It's better to prevent those points being scored versus you getting the rebound to get some points. So I believe it's analytics. I don't know for a fact. I'm just saying I think
No,
it's analytics.
hey, you know what? It just, Walton was saying, look, more people need to follow their shots. As soon as you let it go, if it's either going in or if it's going to go off the rim one way or the other. You need to follow your shots, put it back up. But everyone and you watch it. Person puts up a shot, there's 5 people just watching it.
Well, if I was a player and I didn't want to get in there and get hurt, I probably would say analytics coach. Because all the players, they've got to have their own analytic advisor that's telling them, what percentage do this or that. You don't have to listen to the coach because the analytics say this. So that's the only thing I can think of.
I think if I was playing, I think as soon as someone puts up a shot, I would just release back on defense. Because I think that at least looks like you're trying. But with everyone just standing around watching the shot.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I see your point. Yeah.
I don't know. At least it looked like I'm, efforting.
I can see why that pains you.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Because, I was always taught, as soon as you shoot it, you got to go after it.
Yeah.
And the next thing Walton brought up, I believe he's a Hall of Famer. Is it time to bring back the jump ball in college basketball? Because right now it's based on possession, alternating possession, back and forth. And he seemed to think that just isn't fair. Have the ref toss up the ball, let the 2 athletes go after it. Why are we doing alternating possession?
As a player, I could never figure out where I'm supposed to line up on that circle. I'm sure there's some rule of thumb, but I never got it. I never figured it out. The ball always went some other direction. I like the alternate possession. The refs can't throw the ball up straight. They can't throw it high enough. I mean, you got 2 guys that are 7 foot tall with these enormous wingspans now. You got to throw that ball up, 15 feet up in the air in a straight line? Maybe for middle school, elementary school, JV, high school. But I think once you get players that are over 6'6", 6'7",
I was never tall enough to have that problem.
Yeah.
If I was going up against somebody that was 6'4", I just thought, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just stand here.
Yeah.
But it does. I don't know. I think the game loses something. Maybe it's nostalgia. That's
They're still throwing it up at the beginning of the game in the half, right?
Yeah. Well, no, at the beginning of the game,
but not the half. Yeah.
I think the half. It's whoever. I think they give it to whoever didn't have the ball at the end of the first half, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Let's bring in our rules expert. Can you bring in the rules expert? Have him pop in.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll do that. I'll have an AI rules expert, and I'll just kind of put him in a little window. Tell me what an idiot I am. Which that's fine. All right, let me get on to the next one. Shedeur Sanders. Have you been following his comments recently?
I heard his comments in the Pro Bowl where he kind of got on somebody. I think the NFL did a tweet that kind of criticized a player, and he came back, which I thought was appropriate. Said something like, isn't this game supposed to be promoting players, not tearing them down? That's the only thing I saw.
Okay, so in the last couple of days, he was interviewed, and he said, hey, I would be the first quarterback selected in the 2024 draft. because I don't see a quarterback. This is his quote. I don't see a quarterback better than me. So I'm wondering if that's the case. Hey, why don't you declare?
Oh, I think he's getting paid. I think he's getting paid more than a rookie salary. I mean, what Brock Purdy's making
Oh,
885,000.
yeah, 875.
Yeah, Sanders is getting more than that. He's probably getting double that.
Oh yeah, no, I think easily he's probably close to 2 million probably.
Yeah. So I think he. I mean, I know you got to get into the NFL and burn those couple of years so you can you can get your payday. But yeah, I think he's doing fine.
All right, now even the more recent news: Chip Kelly to Ohio State. Let me ask you this: is Chip Kelly a better coordinator than a head coach? Is he just no longer head coach material?
I think he needs a. He would need a general manager to handle the NIL and all the other foolishness that's going on in college sports because I think it's just a little too much. And I gotta say, UCLA is a cemetery for head coaches. They do not have the interest in promoting football. They're going to be skimming revenue off of that program, directing it to other things the chancellor wants. They're just not into football. They love basketball, and they're just never going to get the support to compete against USC. They took the +1 invitation. They were the +1 going to the Big Ten. USC was the invite, and they didn't read the invitation closely enough. You know, it's big boy football. It's big money football. And UCLA is just not up for the task. I expect UCLA in 2 years to tap out of the Big Ten.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that UCLA's lack of NIL money was a big reason why he left, and he doesn't want to deal with that foolishness. So that kind of begs the question: are UCLA supporters just cheap?
Well, they're going against Oregon. Oregon's got Nike money, Phil Knight, who's pouring in a ton of money into their NIL. So anybody on the West Coast that wants to get paid is going to go to Oregon. And probably the second and third choices are going to be USC and Washington. And then the last choice will be UCLA. And your choice is going to be, do you want to go 4-8 for 4 years and play for UCLA, or do you want to have a winning record and play for a Big 12 team or a top, like a Boise State, a top G5 team? So I just don't think UCLA is going to be able to get any talent to build a team that can break 500 in the Big Ten. Yeah, and they're going to be sharing money. They got alimony payments to make. They've got travel expenses to pay. I just don't think they're going to have the resources on the operations side either, let alone the NIL side. So I think, yeah, UCLA is going to be very, very tough. Very, very tough.
Who's going to be the one to recommend pulling the plug on their Big Ten relationship, the AD or the chancellor?
It'd have to be the chancellor. The ADs, they want the bigger conferences just so they can get bigger salaries and it's for their own career paths. But the chancellor, it's like cutting a subsidiary. The CEO of the subsidiary is not going to raise their hand and say, cut me. But the head of the major corporation that has that subsidiary is the one that's got to make the call that, this is one we got to this is one of our babies we got to let go.
See, that's rough. So then where would UCLA potentially go? Because they don't want to, you can't get rid of football completely because
Correct.
football finances everything else.
Yeah, I think they'll fall in line with maybe a second tier league like the ACC with Cal and Stanford. I could see them going wherever Cal goes.
Okay.
In 2 years, the ACC, if the buyout fees are lower, you could have 4 or 5 teams exit the ACC, and then you could have 6 or 7 schools that are kind of at the Big 12 level, and including Cal and Stanford, and those could join together, maybe have a couple large divisions. So I think there's a tier 2. There's going to be the professional level, which will be initially the Big 10, the SEC. Eventually, the SEC schools in the poorer states will drop off back into a second tier, and then that second tier is what the Big 12, the ACC remnants, the Pac-2. That'll form the second tier, and I think it'll be a good tier. I could see a streaming deal for that where fans can subscribe. I don't think being in the second tier is necessarily a death knell for football and all the other programs. There's probably still $20 million, $25 million a year that those second tier folks can get, and they can survive on that. The number of players and the number of coaches are not changing. So you're always going to have 3 stars, and some 4 stars are going to play in that second tier. They might get poached the following year, but you're going to have players that can be coached up, that can be extremely competitive. And there'll be all sorts of questions whether this new professional league is even a part of the national championship picture, because it's not. It's more of a media-driven invitational than it is, a fair playing field for all schools.
It's just a matter of them finding the right home.
Yeah, they'll find the right home. I think it'll all shake out in the next couple of years. It'll go really quickly, because the college football playoff. If you listen to the Big Ten, the SEC, they basically want a bowl game that is played between their 2 conference championships at the end of the day. And okay, they just want SEC teams, and it's like the Rose Bowl has dropped the Pac-12 and added the SEC, and that's what they're looking for.
All right, and last but not least, it is Super Bowl Sunday. Who you got?
I got the Niners. I got the Niners scoring first. I got the Niners leading at the half, and I got the Niners winning the game. Niners.
Straight across the board. Nice play. I've got the Niners. I got them -3.5. I teased them up so I could get +125, the pro move from Vegas.
Nice.
I figured, look, if they can win by 2, they can win by 4. And earlier today, O.J. Simpson tweeted that he thinks the Niners are going to win by 4, 24-20. So I'm rolling with the juice. That's how the pros do it. You got to find an edge any way you can.
Yeah. Well, go drink it from the juice. Okay.
So thoughts and prayers out to the juice. He's now battling prostate cancer. So we are gonna just keep him in our thoughts and our prayers. But he says he's dealing with some issues, but he's hoping to be back out on the golf course in a few weeks. So that'll be epic. All right. You know what? I think that's going to do it. I am the prophet. He is the professor. This is the first of many podcasts by the Real2Real Sports Network. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, adios.